الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to Islamic Oasis Live. Today we have an amazing guest, an amazing friend, and you may call him a teacher, scholar. We have Brother Hasan Al-Amin, also known as Craig Turner. Brother Hasan, inshallah, you get to know a lot about who Brother Hasan is, but I'll just give you a little bit of background. And Brother Hasan became Muslim in 1989, and and alhamdulillah, he's been Muslim since then, and he's worked in the inner city. Inner city, it's I don't know what we would do without him in the inner city. Inner city, this is it's as I said, inshallah, we'll get into the work of the kind of people that are in the inner city of Chicago and what it takes to do the kind of work that Brother Hasan does and his colleagues do, and we've been doing together for such a long time. We met in 2009. We started working in the inner city of Chicago, and Brother Hasan has been with us since then. Many of you may not know, but Brother Hasan is basically, he runs our operations in the South Side. He does a lot of our Ramadan distributions that we do during the month of Ramadan. It just happens so seemingly, but it's all of that is actually gets handled by Brother Hasan. But Brother Hasan has an amazing story. As you know, the title itself is called The Journey to Islam. So inshallah, the goal is to discuss, and subhanAllah, what people go through to come to this deen and the struggles that they go through to not only continue to work in the community as a Muslim, whether it's with their families or the community in general. Welcome to Brother Hasan. Jazakallah khair for taking the time to be here. And inshallah, let's get into it, man. So who is Brother Hasan? We hear so much about Brother Hasan. Who is Brother Hasan?
Brother Hasan is I'm just Muslim. You made reference that I was a teacher and a scholar.
You're a teacher and a scholar.
I don't know about a scholar.
There is not one, ask Brother Hasan any ayah in the Quran. Not only he will give you the ayah in English, but he'll give you the reference of it at the end of it, without a question. So go ahead. I don't know how many people can do that, but go ahead. And that goes even with books. You ask him, when he knows it, he'll know the page, the paragraph, and the page number.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, Assalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammadan wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in and mubarak. Before I start, I'd just like to make dua. I ask Allah to let divine power overshadow me. Let anything I say be of benefit to the audience. It's a message of truth, not my mess. Sometimes, ego and pride can get a hold of us. We speak of ourselves and not of what Allah has done for us. My journey into Islam, people would think, began when I took Shahada or when I started to practice Islam. But literally, I don't really know when my journey into Islam began. I know coming up on the south side of Chicago, single parent home, I took to the streets at a young age. At that particular time, the old nation of Islam under the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was thriving in my neighborhood. And I looked at those brothers, they seemed to be more polite, they seemed to be more knowledgeable, more educated, they seemed to be cleaner and pure than the other people in my neighborhood. And I began to look at them with a lot of respect. And I started asking questions. What is a Muslim? Who is a Muslim? How do you become a Muslim? But as it always goes, Shaitan comes between us and knowledge. So he stood between me and knowledge for quite a long time. I came up doing things like shining shoes, and at the shoe shine stand, people would always speak about Islam. Islam was beginning to thrive in our neighborhoods back then in the late 60s. early 70s. Islam as we thought was Islam. But again, it was enough to pique my interest in it. Um, but it wasn't until 1989 I was incarcerated. I was in segregation. They took all of my property, and I hollered out through the chuck hole from my cell, did anyone have anything to read? My brother said, I have the Holy Quran down here. At this particular time, I wasn't Muslim. I hadn't taken Shahada. And I said, you got a Holy Quran? Let me read it. And the officer, when he had a chance, brought it up to my cell. And for the next 3 or 4 days, I read the Quran from cover to cover. And all I can remember is reading the Quran. I don't remember anything else. When I finished the Quran, I put it down and went back to the chuck hole and called for the brother to return the Quran to him. The officer said, he's been gone. We thought something was wrong with you up there. Everybody's been calling you and calling you. I came up there to check on you a couple of times, and you were reading that book. And it just transformed my mind. Soon after that, I began to see the guidance of Allah. When they let me out of segregation and sent me to population, there were half. I got the latter half of volume 2. So I wrote the Islamic Institute of Information and Education, and a brother was there at that time named Mir Reef Ali. He started sending me pamphlets. Next thing you know, I wrote another organization. I took the Islamic correspondence class from jail, and that started me off. I learned how to pray from another brother. I went to commissary, and I saw this brother with a bag going from person to person, begging. What I thought was begging. When he came to me, I asked him what his name was. He said his name was Rahim or Rashad or something like that. I said, are you Muslim? He said, are you Muslim? And I claimed to be a Muslim, although I hadn't taken Shahada. He said, do you know how to pray? I said, no, I don't. And on a brown paper bag, he wrote all the positions of prayer and gave me Shahada down in Commissary Division 4.
What's commissary? I have no idea.
Commissary is when you go to buy your deodorant, lotion, cookies, chips, things of that nature. He gave me Shahada in the commissary section of Division 4 in 1989. And from then on, I began to seek knowledge. I would just read the Quran over and over. Found the Quran was divided into 30 Jews. I read the Jews every day. Finished, do the same thing again the next month. Read the Jews every day. And, I started to really buy into Islam. Started to love Allah and His messenger. But whenever I would get out of jail, I would not go to the masjid. I remember once I got out of jail, and I trying to walk the straight and narrow path maybe 2 or 3 months. Couldn't find a job, kept getting rejected. My faith would grow thin. I grew impatient. return back to Jahiliyyah ways. And this went on and on till 2009. 2009, I remember some advice an imam named Imam Hot gave me. He said, Brother Hassan, if you really would take care and learn Arabic, also had to become an imam. He said, why don't you just go to the masjid and cut the grass, take the garbage out. That's what I decided to do. But I'm going to go back a little bit. In 1994, I made a decision I was going to give Islam a chance. Ramadan was coming. I said, I'm going to fast this Ramadan. Mind you, at that particular time, I was running a crap game. But at any rate, I got up that morning after the moon was sighted, prayed Fajr, and then around door prayer, called a cab to the crap game, took a cab to a masjid on the west side. The masjid was closed. I cried tears. I just thought, how in the world the masjid not be open the first day of Ramadan? And when I came to Masjid Ali San on the south side, where I've been for the last 12 years, I made a decision I was going to try to keep the masjid open as much as possible, so no one would have to go through what I had to go through. For 15 years, when I came to the masjid was closed. And it was 15 years before I made it back to a masjid again. So for the last 12 years or more, I've been in Masjid Ali San. Like I said, like Shirazi said, we met in 2010. I began to facilitate food distribution, clothing distribution, limited Sadaka distribution on the south side and west side for Brother Shirazi in 2010. And it's grown since then. I began to facilitate Zakat and Sadaka for the Islamic Foundation of Villa Park, for MSI, for Islamic Center Naperville. And I'm very happy as a Muslim. I'm very happy. I love Allah and His Messenger. It's nothing that I regret doing. Literally, I regret not becoming a Muslim sooner than I did, but all things happen within Allah's time and according to His will and plan. And that's basically a little bit about my journey into Islam. There's much, much more, but it's limited time, and it's really hard to go into it all.
No, of course I understand. But you said something interesting. You said you had properties and then you sold the property. How long were you in prison?
Well, I stayed in and out of jail for over 20 years. I've done over 20 years on what's called the installment plan. I would get out and stay out a little while, then return again, get out, stay out a little while, and return again. So when I got to Masjid Ali San in 2009, I haven't been locked up one time ever since.
So you were getting locked up, what, just doing different things?
Property crimes, drug crimes, small possessions, vandalism, anything I could do to support my habit. At that time, I was addicted to cocaine and heroin. Whatever I could do to get more, to get one more, as they say, I would do it. And it cost me to stay in and out of jail.
But Brother Hassan, what's interesting is you're very. I mean, when I see you, like you said, how many times have you read the Quran?
Some count.
You can't count the amount of times you've read the Quran.
The amount of times I've read the Quran from cover to cover.
So how does that happen? I mean, mashallah, especially, I mean, working with you, we've been working, I don't know how many years now, 7, 8, whatever.
We've been working 11 years.
11 years now, subhanAllah, 11 years working together. And,
the work seems to grow
of
day
course,
by day.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, and we ask Allah to keep it growing as long as we are sincere, bismillah ta'ala. But tell me about, well, actually, a little bit more about you. I mean, there's a lot to know. How is your mind? How do you so sharp? I mean, because I was mentioning in the beginning, like where you would quote the Quran and you quote the page of the Quran and the ayah or even the verse of the Quran. How
I have
does that happen?
photographic memory.
So is this something you knew from the day you were young and somebody
I started recognizing it around 6 or 7 years old. My mother started taking advantage of it. She would repeat one of her friends' numbers, one of our cousins' numbers, one of our relatives' numbers, and she said, "Remember that number for me, boy. Remember that number for me, Craig." And I would remember those numbers. And then I started to realize that I had a photographic memory. Uh, One of my first underworld type jobs was writing policy numbers. I was delivering papers, and my branch manager recognized it too. And he said, "I got something I want you to do. I think you're qualified to do this." And I would remember the people's numbers. He'd send me go over there to this address. She's gonna play a number. Say, "Can I write it down?" He said, "No, there's no writing numbers down. File it in your mind." And I run over there and get the number and get the money from the person. And I remember the number.
So why didn't you go to school, brother? I mean, is this and you never thought that school was for you, or?
I never really thought school was for me because coming up in the ghetto, I had this "I want to be rich" type of mindset. You don't get rich going to school. You get rich doing things in Jalea. So I never took advantage of the type of mind that I've been equipped with by Allah. SubhanAllah.
So how much do you read per day? How many books have you read in general?
I'm telling how many books. I haven't read a lot lately, and I need to begin to get back on my disciplines. But I used to read quite a bit, say 2 books a week.
Huh? So and you continue to still do the same thing. You still read. I know you were sick a little bit in the beginning. Inshallah, you get back to your.
I'd like to get back on my discipline. I pray Allah gives me complete healing.
So how old were you when you became Muslim?
I became Muslim, I was 39 years old.
39 years old when you became Muslim. And even then, that was also in jail.
I was in jail, yeah.
So what is the jail scene? What does the prison look like? I mean, as far as the Muslim.
No, SubhanAllah.
And seems to be the place where a lot of brothers they get the time to think because they get time. They get time, just kind of get time to actually think about life. If not, everybody's just running, trying to figure out, whatever, however. So, but with you, 29 years old, and so how was the Islamic scene then? I mean, the da'wah and how?
Then the Islamic scene was not really good. I just happened to read the autobiography of Malcolm X.
Was Malcolm X around at the time?
No, Malcolm X got killed, I think, in 1965.
Yeah.
Like I say, when I was shining shoes in the pool rooms, Malcolm X, Minister Farrakhan, Elijah Muhammad.
These are common names.
Those names are common names.
But Malcolm X was killed, but he was around when you were around.
No, not necessarily. I was born in 1960. He
Uh-huh.
got killed in 1965.
So you were very young.
Anything I heard about him and learned about him was after he had been killed.
Uh-huh. So what did you hear about Malcolm X? What was Southside like at the time Malcolm X was killed?
How great an orator he was.
Okay, what did Malcolm do? Rahmatullah alayhi, Allah give him the highest place in Jannah. What did he do to the inner city? I guess that's what I'm asking. Because whoever you talk to nowadays, especially from the South Side inner city brothers, like just conversation we were having before this interview, right? I mean, you said you're convicted while you're in the womb.
Yes.
I mean, that's a big statement.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a book by itself. Maybe it's something
African
you should think
American
about.
male, descendant of the ex-slave, is convicted in the womb.
Can you expound on that? What does that mean? Convicted in the womb.
We're lacking basic resources and the support system needed to survive in the system that you described by suggesting that I go back to school. We're lacking the basic necessities to thrive in that system.
By design or by
By
will?
design, by design. It's systematic. It's how do they describe systemic racism? We're the first fired, the last hired, we're the first fired. Once we get an X on our back, meaning we're convicted of a crime, it makes it even worse.
So racism or systemic racism,
Systemic
systemic
racism.
poverty, systemic
Systemic
lack of resources in the area. On the top of that, so this leads to, whether it's Muslims or in general, the public is pushed into doing whatever to survive.
By any means necessary.
By any means necessary, and that leads to prison.
That leads to prison.
Because you got to survive.
You got one foot in the door of prison.
What's crazy is that you have University of Chicago, one of the finest universities in the world,
Finest universities.
and you have it right in the heart of the inner city, and then you're telling me that this is systemic by design. So can you talk about that? How does that work? Like the barriers that are put there.
The barriers begin once you get the X on your back. It's harder to get a job. You can't get your license. Different things like that. The barriers increase once you have a child. You're not supporting that child. Say the mother of the child goes to the Department of Human Services, files a case on you for child support. That further decreases your chances to get a driver's license, to get a job, things of that nature. And I could go on and on. Once you get an X, it's impossible for you to get a lease in public housing. It's almost impossible for you to get your own apartment. Most of the applications for these apartments, they do background checks, things of that nature.
So it just falls apart from there.
It just falls apart.
So what is the percentage, do you think? I mean, let's say now, let's talk about today. I mean, this has been the same for the last, I guess, and there's no beginning of it, but
percentage-wise, I'm not qualified.
I understand.
To give that.
But today, for instance, today, when you go into the South Side, where you live today, you said you can't walk out
Where I
there.
live today is a literal war zone. I live on 68th Street between Indiana and Michigan. And north of me in Parkway Gardens, the rappers call it O Block, I think. They're killing up every day. When you have Walgreens, Kentucky Fried Chicken, and McDonald's move out of a neighborhood, what does that tell you about that neighborhood? What does that tell you? They can't make a buck. There's no money.
It's not stable.
It's not stable. Then to the south of me, Park Manor, Avalon Park, Chatham, literally war zones. To the west of me, Albany, Gresham, war zones.
Jeez, I mean, these are, so But war zone means what? I mean, can you describe what does that mean? Just
Meaning-
fighting going on, killing going on
killing
for
going
no
on.
reason. People are just killing each other. So what is the reason, Brother Hassan? I mean, what's making this place just fire up like that? I mean, it's exploding.
Hatred,
Hatred of what?
hatred of each other, lack of knowledge of self,
Not understanding.
poverty, need more,
Huh?
competition. Competition is sin.
What did this increase even more with now with COVID situation?
The COVID situation is even worse.
You had COVID.
I had COVID.
How did you go through it? How was the scene, hospital, the whole deal? I mean,
With the help
and
of
you're
Allah.
alone on the top of that.
With the help of Allah, I made it through. Initially, I didn't address it in a faith-based fashion. I pulled myself together, and I made it through with the help of Allah. With the help of Muslims like yourself, Muslims like the brothers from south side of Chicago, especially the brothers from the University of Chicago. They have really helped me out greatly.
There's a lot of Muslim youth in that area, it seems, or a lot of families.
A lot of Muslim youth, and it's incumbent upon us as Muslims to present Islam in the right way, to reach out to those youth, try to pull them in, and prevent them from having to go through the type of things that I went through.
So, brother,
Prevent them from having to make the same sort of mistakes I made.
so how do you do that? I guess what I'm asking is the responsibility of the Muslims
Yes.
to this area. You know, I used to call it Southside, and still do. I call it Southside Gold. You know, if the brothers, if proper Islam, the resources, money, if put in this area, it's amazing the kind of work that we can do. So what would you want to see in this area by the Muslims?
I'd like to see a real concerted effort to establish a Muslim community center on the south side of Chicago. I'd like to see a real concerted effort for us to each one teach one. If we could, all of us could take a youth and dedicate time and effort to one particular youth, say 20 of us each choose a youth that's interested in Islam, that wants to learn. You know, we'll come to the mass. You know, we can give them shahada, teach them how to pray. You know, I think this would have a great effect on some of the youth in our community.
What? Yeah, well, so when you say youth, what is the? I mean, what are the ages of the youth? Average youth in the city. I mean, you know, it's kind of crazy the way I'm talking to you, as if you live in a different country. You know,
It seems like it's
you know,
different,
right? I mean, even though we worked together for such a long time, but I understand. You know, inner city is it's its own. It's on its own in many ways,
Absolutely.
right? I mean, so by saying that, I guess. How much does racism play a role in keeping it like that? Meaning, it's on its own. Just whatever happens. It's kind of a whole different country. You know, I mean, there's probably a huge percentage. I can probably tell you 80% of the population from this area. I can tell you from India, Pakistan, the Arab in general, and many from different. They've probably never ever seen the South Side. Have never prayed any salah in any of the masajid in the South Side.
It's all about racism. Now, Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said in hadith, I don't know if a hadith Qudsi or not, that he who finds good, praise Allah, that he who finds other than good, like no one but himself. Even with the racism, we have to empower ourselves. We have to pick ourselves up, try to do the best we can. If we do our best, Allah will take care of the rest. But racism plays a huge role in almost everything an African American does. In this, not just in our neighborhoods, in this country, period. again, I don't want to blame anybody else.
No, I'm not asking you to blame. I'm asking you to explain. So when, because people have to know, look, obviously I'm not black. I can't explain the things that you go through in daily life, right? On the top of that, as a Muslim, right? I mean, you're Muslim. For instance, tomorrow is 9/11. Everybody's thinking about 9/11. Now, on the top of that, imagine being black. On the top of that, dealing with this whole issue of anything is possible. Muslims means terrorists. Uh, people are scared to even talk about what happened that day, or on the other hand, even talking about effects of what happened to the Muslims.
Can you imagine that one day, 9/11, and you can't guard the effect that it's had on Muslims? Can you imagine terrorism being practiced on you for 400 to 600 years in terms of genocide, in terms of identity theft, in terms of family separation? And I could go on and on.
No, I want you to go on.
Please
go on,
because been practiced on us for 400 to 600 years. And you can't guard the effect of 9/11 one day.
Yeah.
So you know that our people are suffering from a lot of trauma, a lot of mental psychosis from racism.
And the effects. So you're saying that even if we can't handle a day,
one day,
and the effects of that one day, you're saying, imagine that happening for 400 years.
600 years.
So when you became Muslim in the city, you became Muslim. I mean, so how does one grow within the Muslim community in the South Side? I mean, are there masajid there? I know, but I want you to.
My suggestion is to come to the masajid. Come to the masjid.
Okay.
Come to the masjid.
And Masjid Hasan is one of them.
Masjid al-Islam.
You have
Masjid al-Factory.
Yeah.
Masjid Farouk. Masjid al-Latif.
You have Masjid Dawah.
Masjid Dawah on the west side. Masjid Mukmanoon.
Yeah.
What's our brother, man? Dawood's Masjid on 87th and Austin.
87. Oh, Tawheed.
Masjid Tawheed. They got a masjid over on Exchange now.
So there are masajid there.
There's masajids. We service.
But what's needed?
10 masjids during the month of Ramadan.
Right. What is needed there?
For the doors to be open. For the doors to be open. To meet people, to greet people, to invite them in, to give them knowledge of Islam.
But let me ask you this, Hasan, how do you work in such a, people get scared, right? I mean, just natural thing is because when you describe the way it's a war zone, and you say it's a war zone, then people get like, whoa, I'm not going there. So, but it's a responsibility of the Muslims to go.
Responsibility of the Muslims, and
I mean, look, if you look at Siraj Wahaj, for instance, that brother, when he went in there, he went into a neighborhood. There was nothing but
the whole neighborhood. Transformed the whole neighborhood.
So you need someone like him, or there are people like him, but they need support.
Or to apply Quran and Sunnah like he applied it. The help is gonna come. The help is gonna come. Every time we call the Adhan, Shaitan flees. Every time we call the King Salah, the Shaitan flees. Our prayers will help purify things. We need to just follow the same canon that you follow. The masjid has its protectors anyway. We don't have to go into this with a fearful attitude. We need to attack it with an attitude of faith.
So what does that mean? Go on.
I mean, no borrowed statement from the doing. You just gotta let the dice roll. You gotta just let the dice roll. Look at what we did with Masjid al-Islam. Masjid al-Islam, the growth there. And look at what you've done.
I mean, we've done nothing. I mean, brothers inside have done a lot more than in that area, of course.
You've done so much.
No, we have done nothing. No, I understand, but see, see, I guess what I want you to kind of, when you're talking, if you can give me what needs to happen in the South. Look, I mean, I need you to be straight. Let's say you're talking to, if you're getting a chance to, let's talk to everybody here who knows who's listening, right? And say, look, here are the type of things that we need. You said we need a center, right? Like, you have Muslims spending millions of dollars in everything, in all kinds of centers and resources, but I still don't see Muslims investing in the inner city like the way they should.
It could be much more investment made. But what's needed is just a few good men. Just a few good men. They have nothing to fear and have nothing to lose. And it can be done. It can be done.
Let me ask you this. I mean, as far as, so what needs to be done? I mean, would be done means what? We go in, talk to the youth, we do, what kind of program needs to be done?
I think initially we should start off with like a youth day. Get the youth to the last year, find out about.
Meaning youth here, you're talking about not Muslims, just any youth.
Non-Muslim and Muslim. And Muslim and Muslims, That should be the focus of the investment. That should be the focus of the investment. Non-Muslim youth, Muslim youth should be the focus of the investment.
What is Islam in the inner city? And how is it perceived?
Islam in the inner city.
Questions here, I can't see.
Islam in the inner city.
What is Islam? Meaning, for instance, we see so many African American brothers that come into Islam much faster than any other ethnicity. African Americans are naturally somehow they are connected to Islam.
Absolutely.
And so when you say absolutely, what is it that
Islam offers them hope? Islam offers them a way out.
Expound that. What is that?
A way out from.
Gives them objective, purpose.
A way out from particularly negative learned behavior. This is what I was looking for. I was looking for a way out. I really was looking for a way out. I was tired of going to jail, although it took about 20 years after I took Shahada for realization of that objective, but I was looking for a way out of poverty, a way out of foolishness, a way out of ignorance, a way out of lack of purpose. Islam gave me all the things that I was looking for. Gave me purpose, gave me direction, gave me guidance. It gave me a sense of pride in who I was, where I was going, and the fulfillment of my life. I started learning about Islam and the promises of Allah. And what Allah has promised is true. From prayer to prayer, minor sins are forgiven. From Friday to Friday, 7 to 10 days worth of sins are forgiven. From Ramadan to Ramadan, a year worth of sins are forgiven. Hajj, sins of a life, accepted Hajj, sins of a lifetime are forgiven. And I created mercy, He divided it into 100 parts, and one part to the earth to which we show love and compassion and affection towards one another. We saved 99 parts for the day of resurrection and day of judgment. You really got to be a wretched chump to not qualify for these 99 parts of mercy. This is the parts of Islam that began to come alive in my mind and heart and made me decide to stick and stay in the mash.
So
And we need to get this message to the non-Muslim youth because they're lost. They have
look,
no
Brother Hassan,
purpose,
let
no
me ask you this.
direction.
What do you think of, for instance, Islamic history is full of, for instance, without Africa, Islam would have never entered in Spain. I mean, there's like you have the whole area, especially the area of Tunis and Morocco and all of that Maghreb area with Muslims, and these were blacks who entered Spain and made Spain what it is. Then you have, for instance, we have many prophets who were black. But there's Musa alayhi salam. Some said even Ibn Kathir, sometimes he mentions even Zulqarnain was black. Even we have very famous Sahaba, companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who were black. There are many very famous scholars who are black. Do you think that the African American youth here, or the African Americans, they are deprived of that history? That they never realize, hey, we are actually connected to prophets. You think that kind of knowledge, and if that kind of, if they understand the reality of how much they're connected to such high level people? Because here, the reason I'm asking you is that, look, a lot of times African American history starts with slavery in this country. It's like a negative thing right away, slavery. But then when you look to Islam, or when you look at the history, I mean, the whole world is around Africa.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When you're living in a black and white world like we're living in now, that sort of knowledge is sure to empower someone that's on the black side, that really looks at Islam like it's been presented here in America, especially in the cartoons and so forth, as a backward Arab religion. That type of knowledge would, give them something more to think about.
That's interesting. Arab religion. So
That's
this
how
is by
it's
design.
designed.
Okay,
It's
that's
just by
thought.
design.
So no one looks into Islam.
No one knows Islam. If you go back over the cartoons of the last 15, 20 years, that's how Islam has been presented.
Hollywood in general.
Hollywood in general, that's how they presented Islam.
So let me ask you this, Brother Hassan.
That was one of the things that piqued my interest about Islam before I entered into Islam. The realization of the connection to all the prophets had to Africa. That sort of realization, I began to think, man, Africa is something special. I'm special. I'm a descendant of someone who's special.
That's what I mean. I mean, does that thought even come through in many of the African American youth or African Americans here in the country? Or do they just start, they said, okay, the highest level that they can look at is Martin Luther King?
Very rare does that type of knowledge reach them. It's very rare. You gave me a book too about African presence in Islam. I can't remember the exact name of it. I haven't finished
The legends.
The legends, right. I haven't finished reading the book. There needs to be more of that work done. And you've encouraged me to try to put something together, and you help provide me with the sources. But it needs to be more of that.
And with the kind of mind that you have.
It needs to be published for the youth. See, that's
Designed for the youth.
Designed for the youth. That's a higher type of scholarship thing. But it needs to be something simple for youth to read. The Malcolm X.
But do you think you mentioned Malcolm X, do you think Malcolm X is really put out there as someone to be looked up to in the African American community? Or it seems like there are others, but Malcolm X is still put aside?
He's not given
the attention that he
the attention
deserves.
that he deserves. Absolutely. He's not giving his full due.
And that's also by design.
That's also by design. They would champion Martin Luther King in Chicago public school in inner city before they would champion Malcolm X.
So give, why is that?
Malcolm X seems to be volatile by any means necessary. Malcolm X is the prototype of the person that the United States government doesn't want to ever see evolve in the United States of America.
I mean, somebody with a backbone,
Somebody with a backbone.
somebody with a backbone, somebody with character, somebody with
It's
that
not
can stand,
afraid
does
of the
it, right?
truth. They could change. That could change for the better.
Right. An example that no matter how bad they can get, you can come right back.
Hope,
Hope.
faith.
That's what he represents.
That's what he represents. Love, family man,
Courage,
courage,
bravery,
manhood,
Yeah.
responsibility.
manhood. That's the. So what is manhood now in the inner city?
True manhood equals responsibility. Manhood as it's presented now,
Yeah, I guess with the growth of homosexuality, I see it on the streets here, right? I see what's going on in schools here and colleges here. The inner city, I'm in and out, so I can't tell you but with this whole LGBT things going on, where is that, right? I mean, has this created even more crisis with crisis already there?
not just crisis in the inner city,
Everywhere.
crisis
The whole world.
everywhere.
But particularly here in the inner city, meaning there's already, like you said, there's already such lack of resources, lack of, all of this, and then on the top of that, now you put this in here. What does that do to the whole pot?
It shrinks the pot. The pot just gets smaller and smaller. An example, Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter is really promulgates LGBTQ. We got everybody wearing these T-shirts and everything. Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, which all lives matter. But you would think this is a representation for the African American descendants of the ex-slave, but it's promulgated by the LGBTQ. So this is a time of crisis, but it also could be a time of change and transformation. You have to be very, very careful what you associate yourself with, what you take interest in. It's a time and information is so easily accessible now. It's time to investigate. It's time to reconcile things back around and soon. It's time to be strong. Only the strong survive. The weak compromise. Strong being those who have turned to Allah. The weak being those who turn away from it. And this is what the religion represents. It takes strength and courage to be a Muslim. It takes patience. It takes endurance. You have to realize that. How does Allah answer our prayers? In three ways. Right now, in the here and now. He reserves it for the hereafter. Or he wards off an equivalent amount of evil. So you got to know that your prayers are going to be answered some kind of way. A lot of people get impatient. I used to get impatient. Pray for this, pray for that. And if I didn't receive it in a couple of weeks, a month, I'd turn on my ears, go back to jollier ways.
I mean, used to, lack of
And it's a
lack of better
time it's a time for brothers and sisters to really come together in unity. Not just African American descent convert Muslims, but all Muslims. All Muslims. My faith really grew grew when I met brothers like you, and I see the beauty in other Muslims, of immigrant Muslims. You're one of the first immigrant Muslims that really made a great investment in the south side and west side of Chicago.
And like accept it from us. Inshallah.
Man, like except from all of us,
All of us,
increase
Allah.
us all.
I mean, on the issue of dawah, Brother Hassan, dawah. So yes, let's say somebody comes, brothers come in, people with different resources come in, but would it be fair to say that dawah can really be done in the inner city or from the people who are from there? Right? I mean, they are the original people from there. They are the people on the ground. I mean, I can come in, I can probably help, but
We have to be
Who-
consistent with it. We have
but
to
who?
be
I mean, is
consistent.
it somebody like me or somebody like you that the people will hear? I mean, who would the people hear? If you want to give da'wah, will the people hear me out or somebody? Because people can say, "Hey man, you come here, you give 2 sentences and you're gone. You don't live, you don't go through what we go through. You don't see the craziness. You don't see the war zones. You're not here struggling with us.
That's why I said consistency.
Constantly being there.
Consistency first. I'm going to be there every day.
Yeah.
I'm going to be there every day. So I think it should be heard from me,
Right.
but it should be also heard from you coming from
Whether it's from
different
outside or
experience,
yeah.
coming from a different experience,
Mm.
sharing your experiences.
In understanding the da'wah and understanding.
Once people learn the value of shared experiences,
Mm.
um,
It grows you.
something I wrote a little while ago, and I always like to bring it up in discussions and forums like this. Our experiences form the plot of the most beautiful story. The more we tell it, the wiser we become.
This guy's a book.
And there's
Yeah.
joy in it.
This is a book, Brother Hassan. Now I'm gonna next time you're here, inshallah, we have a book.
Inshallah.
We're gonna be talking about your book.
Inshallah.
All right. So
Inshallah.
don't come and tell me about high scholarship and all those
Inshallah.
things. We're talking about, they're telling me to ask the questions that are in here. But
Inshallah.
no, really, you got to take this very seriously, Brother Hassan.
Inshallah, I am.
You
I'm so glad you got me in here because the last maybe year and a half of my life have been nothing but tests and trials. Nothing but
Allah loves the
tests and
people.
trials.
He tests the people He loves.
Absolutely. I'm so
But
glad.
let me, Brother Hassan, I know I got some questions I got to
Yeah.
ask you. The leadership skills that you have, right? I mean, look, I probably could not do any. We probably couldn't even survive in the South Side if you didn't have somebody like you, and I mean the help of Allah. So Allah favored us having somebody like you, like Brother Hassan, like Craig Turner. So where did you develop these skills, right? You're able to work with anyone. And I can probably ask the brothers in the inner city, they love you, the people, even whatever happens, everybody knows Brother Hassan. Somebody needs help, they call Brother Hassan. Something needs to get done in the inner city, we call Brother Hassan. Oh, this needs to be distributed, Brother Hassan. What are the needs in the inner city, Brother Hassan? How did you develop that kind of network, contacts, or even the skills?
I didn't do a thing. It was all Allah.
Of course, Allah Azza wa Jal, but I want others to learn.
I learned to be sincere.
Uh-huh.
I learned to be honest. I learned to give my word to people and keep it. I learned to be patient. I learned not only to give people their rights, but to give them some of my rights as well. And,
That's big.
and I learned to go
To give
extra
some of
miles.
my rights.
I learned to give some of my rights. And it took time. But when I began to see people's faces light up, and I began to start getting more phone calls, especially from people I didn't know, and say, I heard about you. I heard about Manhood Ali-san. I heard about Islamic Oasis. What do you need? What can I help? Can you help me? I knew that was all from Allah. I knew that was all from
So sincerity.
sincerity.
And be able to give more even of yourself.
Not only give people their rights, but if that's not enough, give them some of my rights.
But that's true. That's true leadership right there, brother. That's true leadership, right?
And
So where does it come from? I mean, you said I learned to, but where?
again,
I mean, has there been any experiences in
one
life?
other thing that I haven't talked about.
No, I need an answer on this though.
This will include the answer, inshallah. Inshallah, this will include the answer. When I came to Masjid Ali San, I had a lot of obsessions, a lot of compulsions, love for the dunya, habits that I thought I never could get rid of. And by staying in Masjid Ali San, like I did, you know how much I stayed there, almost literally around the clock, day and night.
That was home.
I started to see some of these obsessions and compulsions leave me. Some of these bad habits, I would lose these habits. And Allah replaced all of those things, I guess, with these leadership qualities. People told me a long time ago that I had some of these things, but I let these obsessions, these compulsions, these habits, my ego, my pride, I let these things veil my leadership skills. I let them blind me to the truth of who I really was. And I gave away, I put aside all thought of self, literally. You know, I let people know I don't work for pay, I serve for reward. And I meant that.
You still
I
don't
meant
get
that. I serve for reward. And service is that's where the barakah lies, in service. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was offered the choice of being prophet, king, servant, messenger. He chose service. He chose servant, messenger. So I like to serve, and I hope people get the message in there. There's a message in service.
No, this is huge, Brother Hasan. I mean, these thoughts need to be put on paper. I mean, that is, if somebody would actually, if somebody were to ask me now, what is leadership? At least one of the points would be, a book mentioned, hopefully mentioned by Brother Hasan, that you have to be able to give some of yourself.
Not only person's rights,
It's your own right.
give them some of your own rights.
That's how you become
Go
leaders.
the extra mile. You
Yes.
gotta go the extra mile. You gotta put yourself, you gotta put your people before yourself. You gotta put people before yourself.
I mean, this is something for the whole Muslim world, not only. This is leadership in general. Right? This is what the Prophet did, but this is you put it in such an amazing way. Let me go to the questions now, because they keep telling me you need to ask questions. You need to ask, because there's questions that are coming in. So it says here, one of the questions: do you see a problem with the rest of the Muslim community and working with African American Muslims? Is there a problem? Do you see
The only problem is their fear of rejection, and African Americans fear that we can't trust the immigrants.
But is it there?
It's twofold.
Uh-huh.
It's twofold.
Of course, you can't
It's
clap
not
with
just
one hand.
us. It's not just
like they say, you can't clap with one hand.
Yeah.
So I understand it. So how do we break that barrier? How do we break that barrier?
We both need to open our hearts and minds more to each other.
I mean, have you experienced racism within the Muslim community, immigrant Muslim community? And be honest.
Yes, I have.
Okay, that's what we want to know. I mean, that's because we got to change that, right? I mean, so give me an example.
But looking back,
No, I know you're too nice, and I know you're gonna go back and you're gonna say something nice about it, but that's not the point. The point is, because see, you want change and you want barriers to be broken, right? So you gotta talk about what's happening so the people see that and say that's wrong, that needs to change, and now.
in retrospect, some of the situations where I experienced racism, I could have been a better Muslim. I could have been a better person. Racism does exist, but it doesn't have to be a barrier to access.
No, but that's not the issue. But I understand that. That's because you're willing to go the extra mile. But how give me an example of racism that occurs when you go to Muslim. Let's say you come to the masjid. You go to the masjid in, I don't want to name masajid, but let's say you go to a masjid. Let's say belongs to mostly immigrants. Indians, Pakistanis, Afghanis, Arab. What do you feel that needs to change, akhi? I mean, this is reality check that we need to have.
Acceptance.
Okay.
Acceptance. To see things as they truly are, not as they appear to be.
Don't go on the appearance.
Don't go on the
That's racism itself.
That's
That's
racism.
racism itself.
to deal with conditions the way the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would have dealt with them. Okay. I don't believe the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would have asked anyone to leave the masjid. In fact, when the Bedouin came to the masjid and urinated in the masjid, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told his sahabas, let him finish.
Yeah.
Let him finish. Like I said, to deal with the situation according to Quran and Sunnah, not according to the conditions of the world.
But so you said acceptance. That needs to be there. And acceptance can only happen when people communicate, when people meet, when they break bread together, when they eat together, when they share problems and good and bad together.
The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, accept the truth readily, even if it's from a little child.
Yeah.
So we had acceptance is the key. Acceptance is the key.
Acceptance. The question says, what role does Muslim owned liquor shops in Southside and African American neighborhoods have played? What people really? Hey, that's the question,
It's a really kind of a loaded question.
But it's answered the way it should be answered. I mean, look, I think this
We have
is
to
the issue.
make dua for them. We have to make.
I would do more than that, but okay, fine.
What else would you
Yeah, what else?
do? What else would you do to us? We have to make dua for them.
We have to make dua for them. No, I'm talking about, because this is setting poison in the community. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. See, you never. People say boycott, do this, do that. Can you imagine the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Omar alayhi salam, Abu Bakr alayhi salam, Ali? You imagine them outside picketing someone? So we have to be real. We have to be real. We have to do something that's practical. It's not practical. It's not. And right now, I think the best thing to do is make dua for them. Later on, as situation changes.
I guess what I'm asking, Brother Hassan, I mean, look, that's a, anyway, you went to the Sahaba and something, but that we can discuss one day. But
Inshallah.
But what I'm saying is the effect it has on dawah, right? The effects it has on dawah when children are being affected, youth are being affected, they're being sold poison. They're already going through crisis. Their fathers come home drunk and they're beating their wives or their daughters or whatever it is. And why? Because he's drunk. And that poison was given to by a Muslim brother who sells a liquor store. He's got a liquor store on the corner. So I'm telling you to look at it that way. Yeah, I can make dua. May Allah guide you. But should there be that? No, the Muslims need to take a stand that you're selling poison to our kids. You're destroying our homes. I mean, should there be some type of realization? Look, unfortunately today, we don't have authority to do anything about that. I mean, that I understand. Yeah, that we don't have authority to. But what I'm saying is, at least at the level where we can let them know, and maybe they know, but to take a stand saying, I just want to let you know you're selling poison to our kids. And you're going to pay for it one day. It could be your own kids.
We have formidable organizations, Muslim organizations that are growing, that have that are affecting change, that deal with those type of things. I think we as a whole need to throw more support behind those organizations that deal with those type of things.
Mm.
You know, along with dua. Dua is the weapon of the believer.
Yeah, dua wa ibadat, dua, of course.
What other weapon do we have in that situation besides dua and besides throwing our support behind these organizations that are taking on the task of trying to not only persuade but affect laws on a local level
to try to get these people out of the
to
community.
try to get these people out of the community.
So some kind of effort needs to be put together by, I guess, the community in general in order to get them out of the community. It says here, how should the leadership of a program to build up the Islamic community in the South Side look? Should it be led by someone from the community, or does it matter?
I mean, it should be assured.
Oh, of course, it should be a board.
But you should be a board, and the board should be reflect the representation of the community that they're trying to make change. That's what I think.
There should be people from within the community who are
knowledgeable of the community, knowledgeable of people's needs, who are willing to work grassroots, brick and mortar, to bring about the objectives.
All right, there's another question here. It says, how can we get someone to help for a moment so they can open to receive the message in reference to dawah? And what kind of work that should be done? You were saying that we need to work with the youth. What would that look like? I mean, you're talking about dawah tables, you're talking about events, conferences.
I'm high on dawah tables.
I'm
very high on them. Brother Naeem Muhammad invited me to put up tables on the west side, Madison and Pulaski, things of that nature. And we need to go in places like that that are frequented by people, because the more people we reach, the more people that see us, the better chance we have.
I mean, this is, what area was this? This is West Side.
West Side.
And West Side is even crazier, no?
Sure, it's almost about the same.
It's
almost about the same.
I mean, so what's the difference if you say West Side and that's South Side? These are two different countries too.
I've walked the streets of both the West Side and the South Side, and I don't think it's too much difference.
Okay, inshallah. Let me ask you this. I mean, we're
a little more civil on the South Side, but the same type of things occur.
Yeah, of course. So let me ask you, what kind of advice you would give to those who want to learn to give da'wah, those to the leadership, to scholars, to masajid, to those who are watching? Let's say, what kind of message would you like to give them as far as if this is, let's say all these people are listening to you, right? So what should be done in a nutshell?
In a nutshell, get a working knowledge of the type of people you call into the faith. Call into the faith as we've been commanded by Allah in His message. Call into the oneness of Allah first. Call into prayer second. And feed that in, like take a hammer and make sure that's firm in their minds. That would be, I think, the first thing. To get a good working knowledge
of the people you're working with.
You're calling to the faith. Being called into the faith.
To understand the community.
To understand the community, absolutely. Understand the type of people that you call into the faith. Understand their hopes.
Has the leadership in the inner city reached out in that way, let's say, to the others, saying that, look, you need to do something like that here for the growth of the da'wah?
Not consistently. I don't think they've done it consistently.
It just happens, but then if they do, they do. If they don't, it
doesn't catch fire, put it like that. I like to see it done consistently, and I like to help. I like to do all I can here.
Khair, inshallah. Anything else that you would like to add to what we're discussing?
Just thank Allah for, I just pray Allah blesses me for the good I've done, gives me my shortcomings. I want to thank you for having me on here.
Oh, anytime. You're gonna be back.
Praise,
you're gonna have some other brothers back too.
Praise be to Allah for any good things I said, any mistakes I made, for mine and mine alone.
Jazakallah khair, Brother Hasan. Inshallah, we will have you back again and we'll discuss many more things that we need to discuss in the inner city. Brothers and sisters, Jazakumullah khairan for your time, for being here, for watching. Inshallah, brothers, Islam or the da'wah, calling people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a fardiyah on all of the Muslim community. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Ballighu anni walau ayah." Even if you have one ayah to give, then give to the people. And it's a responsibility as Muslims. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioned, "Kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrijat lin-nas, ta'muruna bil ma'ruf wa tanhawna 'anil munkar wa tu'minuna billah." That you are the best nation ever to be raised for mankind, because you enjoy what is good and you forbid what is evil, right? And it is a responsibility that Allah will take us accountable for on the day of judgment. And that's that we have been given the responsibility of the Anbiya, of the prophets. So many brothers, there are brothers who are background here, and you may not be able to see them. Inshallah, one by one, we will have them on this show. So many people are putting so many different efforts to work in good times and in bad times, in good neighborhoods, in bad neighborhoods, in high crisis neighborhoods, and all, subhanAllah, the amount of efforts people are putting in to spread the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Brothers and sisters, get involved with da'wah. Ask how you can get involved. Brother Hasan is here. If anyone wants their information, inshallah, we'll put up Brother Hasan's information that, I would like to get involved. Go visit the masajid in the inner city. That's one of the first things I think that Muslims in this area, whether it's the suburbs, wherever you are, one of the first things that you should do is, take your children, take your families, go and visit the masajid and look at the conditions of the masajid and see the people and look at what is needed to be done. And inshallah, begin somewhere. And this will only strengthen the bonds of brotherhood within the Muslims, inshallah. Again, this is your brother Muhammad Shirazi from Islamic Courses Live. Jazakumullah khair for everything for your time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
أخي أنت حر وراء السدود، أخي أنت حر بتلك القيود. إذا كنت بالله مستعصما فماذا يضيرك كيد العبيد، فماذا يضيرك كيد العبيد. أخي ستبيد جيوش الظلام ويشرق في الكون فجر جديد، فأطلق لروحك إشراقها. ترى الفجر يرمقنا من بعيد، ترى الفجر يرمقنا من